Well, that year, you ended up losing your mansion.
Yeah.
Evander Holyfield, the only four-time heavyweight champion, the man who beat Mike Tyson twice and earned over $230 million in the ring. He had everything until the twists of life turned devastating. From family members draining his fortune to fighting at 58 just to pay the bills, let's dive into what really happened to the real deal. The fall. The mansion told the whole story. A 54,000 square foot estate in Fayette County, Georgia, built on 235 acres. It had 109 rooms, 17 bathrooms, 3 kitchens, an indoor pool, a bowling alley, and a theater. Construction costs exceeded $30 million. By 2008, Evander Holyfield could no longer afford to keep it. In June 2008, the property entered foreclosure after Holyfield defaulted on a $10 million loan from Washington Mutual Bank. A legal notice announced a public auction for July 1st, 2008. By 2012, the mansion sold at foreclosure auction for $7.5 million, far below its value. Holyfield reportedly still owed over $14 million on the mortgage. The loss came partly from betrayal within his own family.
Well, in the situation that one of the family members borrowed money off my house.
Wait. One of your family members took a second mortgage on a house they didn't own.
Right.
Wow. How much did they take? Too much.
Yeah.
His sister had taken out unauthorized mortgages on his property. When asked about pressing charges, Holyfield refused.
I'm the youngest one in my family, and so these are one of the sisters.
Your sister stole from you.
Yeah.
So you can't even beat her up or nothing.
My whole thing is that I realized that I wasn't going to put them in jail or anything.
Oh, I would have put him in jail.
You know what I'm saying? But, my whole thing, I wasn't going to do that. My whole thing is that I made too doggone much money to stoop that low to do that to them.
The sister was not the only one. Holyfield's assistant told interviewers that multiple business people had stolen from him over the years.
Well, I talked to your assistant, and what she told me was that just a lot of business people just ended up stealing from you.
Yeah.
People who you trusted, who seemed like they had the best intentions for you, ended up going behind your back and stealing from you. And then when you found out, they would send someone else and they would steal from you and so forth. She just said it was heartbreaking because you have a really kind spirit.
Holyfield's response to this pattern of theft reflected his mother's teachings.
My mama always told me, she said, son, you have more opportunities and you should stay somewhere where, like this, everybody know they taking advantage of your kindness. So my whole thing, I'll forgive and move on.
The mansion eventually went to rapper Rick Ross. When asked how much Ross paid for it, Holyfield had a telling response.
I ain't asked him, no longer my business, my whole thing is that I'm not envy or jealous and all this. Is the point of the matter. I don't think about things that's gone.
The mansion was one piece of a larger collapse. Holyfield had earned an estimated $230 or $250 million in fight purses over his 27-year career. His peak earnings included around $34 million from the 1997 Bite Fight rematch against Mike Tyson. Yet by the late 2000s, it was nearly gone. The debts mounted from multiple directions. Unpaid child support for his 11 children from multiple relationships led to ongoing payments and lawsuits, including one in 2008 for arrears. A Utah landscaping company sued him for $550,000 for work on the estate. IRS tax liens accumulated, with amounts ballooning to tens of thousands with interest. In 2012, Holyfield filed for bankruptcy. Court documents revealed debts exceeding assets by nearly $10 million. To settle obligations, he was forced to auction his career memorabilia through Julian's Auctions in Beverly Hills on November 30th, 2012. The sale included his 1984 Olympic bronze medal, fight-worn gloves from both Tyson bouts, multiple championship belts from the WBA, WBC, and IBF, rings commemorating his titles, robes, trunks, and even non-boxing items like a 1962 Chevrolet Corvette. The auction fetched an estimated $3 million total, not enough to fully resolve his debts. Failed investments had accelerated the spiral. In 1999, Holyfield launched Real Deal Records, investing around $3 to $5 million other sign and promote artists. The label folded by the mid-2000s without producing a single single hit. His restaurant ventures reportedly cost another 10 and 11 million.
I mean, along the way, you started a record label, Real Deal Records. You invested millions of dollars into it. Unfortunately, none of the artists popped off. You know, someone that comes from the music industry, starting a record label is one of the hardest things in the world that you could do. I always say that in general, it's more profitable to buy scratch-off lottery tickets than start a record label to try to break a bunch of new artists.
By the early 2010s, reports described him as flat broke and bankrupt. The man who had been the only boxer in history to win the undisputed championship in 2 weight classes, the only boxer to beat Mike Tyson twice, had lost everything. Yet Holyfield maintained perspective even in the depths of his financial ruin.
Yeah.
My whole thing is that when I look at it, I said, you know, don't nothing hurt me, because the fact of the matter, I'm so far ahead what I used to be, and I can do pretty much anything that I want to do.
Yeah,
I don't have problems.
Well, yeah.
His resilience in the face of financial devastation mirrored the resilience that had defined his career in the ring. To understand how Evander Holyfield developed that unbreakable will and why his generous nature left him vulnerable to exploitation, we need to go back to where it all began. The making of a warrior. The poverty that shaped Evander Holyfield's character also planted the seeds of his eventual financial troubles. Born on October 19, 1962, in the small rural town of Atmore, Alabama, he entered the world as the youngest of 9 children in a family defined by hardship and separation. His mother, Annie Laura Holyfield, was 39 years old at the time of his birth. His biological father was never part of his life, and Holyfield has never publicly confirmed his identity. The family's circumstances in Atmore were desperate. They lived in a small house without indoor plumbing, relying on an outhouse and drawing water from a well. Annie worked grueling hours as a cook and domestic worker to feed her large brood, instilling strict discipline and fierce Christian values into her children. Young Evander was small for his age and frequently bullied, developing a quiet, introspective personality as a survival mechanism. A pivotal moment arrived when he was around 4 or 5 years old. Annie decided to leave Alabama for better opportunities, relocating the younger children to Atlanta, Georgia, while some older siblings remained behind with relatives. Atlanta offered opportunity, but not safety. The family landed in public housing projects, first in East Lake Meadows, later in the notorious Bowen Homes housing projects in northwest Atlanta. Bowen Homes was a dangerous place, plagued by gang activity and violent crime during the 1960s and 1970s. The environment was so deteriorated that the entire complex would eventually be demolished in the 2000s. Yet despite these treacherous surroundings, Annie maintained an iron grip on her household, raising Evander and his siblings largely alone after separating from a stepfather figure. Annie's influence on her youngest son was immense and lasting. She worked multiple jobs, including at Grady Hospital, and demanded church attendance every Sunday at New Hope Baptist. She forbade cursing, insisted on respect for elders, and repeated phrases that would echo in Holyfield's mind for decades. The Lord doesn't put more on you than you can bear, and you can't wish good people away, meaning that good-hearted individuals must endure hardship to grow stronger. These teachings would later manifest in Holyfield's refusal to prosecute family members who stole from him. At the Warren Memorial Boys Club in southeast Atlanta, 8-year-old Evander discovered the path that would lead him out of the projects. He had initially been drawn to football, playing linebacker on the club's 65-pound team, though his small stature often relegated him to the bench. But one day, he saw someone hitting a speed bag and wanted to learn. His initial approach to the boxing coach, Carter Morgan, was met with rejection.
He said, yeah. I said, can I come in and hit the speed bag? He said, no. And I said, why? He said, because you got to be on the boxing team. I said, I want to be on the boxing team. He said, no. So the next day I asked him. He said, no again. And the third day I seen him, and when he looked up to see me, he just started shaking his head.
Holyfield's persistence paid off in a way that revealed his character even at that young age.
So I act like I was just going to walk away. So when he turned it back, I ran up there again. He said, well, yeah, come on in. He said, no. I'm not going to let you hit that little bag, because that little bag don't do nothing for you. I'm going to let you hit this big bag. Are you strong? I said, yes, sir. He said, okay, then you hit it as hard as you can.
What happened next would change the trajectory of his life forever.
So I hit this big bag in my hand, and it hurt. But it made him laugh. And when he started laughing, I just kept hitting it. Da, da, da. He said, "Wait a minute, you knocked the skin off your hand and stuff." It's okay. Then he tells me, he said, "Man," he said, "you good." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Do you know you can be like Muhammad Ali?" I said, "I'm only 8 years old." He said, "You ain't always be 8. And I believed him because I know next week I was going to be 9. And that's how everything started.
Carter Morgan became the father figure young Evander had never known. The grizzled, freckled coach recognized something in the undersized kid who showed up day after day despite being told no. Morgan's tough love and persistent encouragement shaped Holyfield's approach to both boxing and life, teaching him that persistence and heart could overcome physical limitations. The results were immediate and dramatic. Holyfield earned the nickname One Punch Holyfield in his early amateur career, not because he was knocking opponents out cold, but because he hit them so hard they started crying.
Go in, knock the guy out, and you're done.
Well, it wasn't so much knocking the guy out. I hit him so hard, and they were crying, like this, and they stopped the fight. And so, it's not a knockout, but so everybody realized, oh man, he really strong. And so they used to call me One Punch Holyfield.
His first trophy proved transformative for his relationship with his mother and his place within the family hierarchy.
Won that.
Aha.
Got that first trophy.
Got that first trophy.
Is what kind of changed everything for me, because in my house, I was the youngest one, and all I had to do everything everybody told me. But once they put that trophy on there, then everybody who came over the house, they said, "Miss Holyfield, where's the fighter?" She said, "That little one." And they said, "Well, he look." My mama said, "He sure enough can fight." And that let me know that she liked trophies. And once I found that out, I had to go to get it.
Annie's approval became his fuel. Her strict discipline had kept him off the streets. Now, her pride in his accomplishments drove him toward greatness. Holyfield graduated from Fulton High School in 1980, an indifferent student who struggled with reading and focus. But in boxing, he had found his purpose. His amateur career was nothing short of remarkable. He compiled an estimated record of 160 wins against only 14 losses, with approximately 75-76 knockouts. Key achievements included a silver medal at the 1983 Pan American Games in Caracas, Venezuela, where he lost in the final to Cuban powerhouse Pablo Romero, and the 1984 National Golden Gloves title. To secure his spot on the 1984 U.S. Olympic boxing team, which featured future professionals like Pernell Whitaker, Meldrick Taylor, and Tyrell Biggs, he defeated the favored Ricky Womack twice in box-offs. The 1984 Los Angeles Olympics marked Holyfield's international breakthrough, but it ended in bitter controversy that would shape his psychological approach to adversity for years to come. Competing as a light heavyweight at 178 pounds, the 21-year-old dominated his early opponents, knocking out Taju Akai of Egypt in the third round, Ismail Khalil Salman of Iraq in the second, and Sylvanus Okello of Kenya in the first to reach the semifinals. There, facing New Zealand's Kevin Barry, Holyfield controlled the fight from the opening bell. Late in the second round, with Holyfield ahead on all scorecards, referee Grigorian Novicic of Yugoslavia yelled, "Stop," during a clinch, possibly to warn Barry about his excessive holding. Holyfield unleashed a devastating left hook that floored Barry cold just as, or fractions of a second after, the command was issued. Novicic disqualified Holyfield for a late hit. The pro-American crowd erupted in chaos, hurling objects at the ring. The U.S. team protested vigorously, arguing that the loud arena had masked the command and that both fighters had violated breaks earlier in the fight. Video evidence showed the timing was ambiguous at best. The appeal upheld the disqualification, but in a rare compromise acknowledging the injustice, awarded Holyfield the bronze medal rather than eliminating him entirely. Barry took silver. Yugoslavia's Anton Josipovic won gold by walkover. At the medal ceremony, Josipovic made a gesture that acknowledged the robbery. He symbolically pulled Holyfield onto the top podium step. Barry himself later told Holyfield directly, "You won the fight fair and square." Holyfield wore the bronze as motivation rather than shame. He refused to cry or protest publicly, later recalling his mother's presence in the arena and knowing she would have rebuked him for being a sore loser. The incident fueled his professional determination. He debuted just 3 months later, on November 15, 1984, Madison Square Garden, carrying the fire of Olympic injustice into his professional career. The values Annie instilled, perseverance through hardship, forgiveness over vengeance, generosity toward family, would define his character throughout his rise. But they would also leave him vulnerable when the people closest to him betrayed his trust. The champion's reign. Evander Holyfield's transition to the professional ranks launched one of the most accomplished careers in modern boxing history. Trained initially by Lou Duva and George Benton at the renowned Kronk Gym in Detroit before settling with Main Events, Holyfield quickly established himself as a force by blending cruiserweight power with heavyweight size, relentless conditioning, and tactical intelligence that belied his humble educational background. His professional dominance unfolded in 2 distinct phases that cemented his legacy: a near-flawless run to undisputed cruiserweight champion, followed by an extraordinary move up to heavyweight, where he became the only boxer ever to win the undisputed heavyweight title, and then reclaim versions of it 3 additional times. After 11 straight victories, mostly by stoppage, Holyfield faced Dwight Muhammad Qawi on July 12, 1986, for the WBA cruiserweight title in one of the most grueling fights of the decade. The 15-round war in Atlanta saw Holyfield overcome severe dehydration, reportedly losing up to 15 pounds during the fight itself, to win a razor-thin split decision that earned universal respect for his heart. He defended the WBA belt 3 times before adding the IBF strap with a knockout of Ricky Parkey in 1987. The defining cruiserweight moment came on April 9, 1988, when he stopped Carlos de Leon in the Udairushu 8th round to become the first undisputed cruiserweight champion in history, holding the WBA, WBC, and IBF titles simultaneously. In just under 4 years as a professional, Holyfield had cleaned out an entire division with a 15-0 record in cruiserweight bouts, 11 by knockout. Rather than linger in a division he had conquered, he vacated all 3 titles and moved to heavyweight, a bold and unprecedented decision for an undisputed champion. Bulking up naturally to around 210-220 pounds, Holyfield adapted seamlessly to the heavyweights. His heavyweight debut came in July 1988 with a first-round knockout of James Quick Tillis. After 10 more wins, including stoppages of former champions Pinklon Thomas and Alex Stewart, he earned a shot at the undisputed heavyweight crown held by James Buster Douglas, who had shocked the world by knocking out Mike Tyson earlier that year. Holyfield was ringside for the Douglas-Tyson fight in Tokyo.
Well, it was 42-1 odds against Buster Douglas. Whoever bet on Buster made a fortune that night. You were there ringside, and the fight happened. Now, Buster Douglas gets knocked down. Tyson, to this day, feels that he got a slow count.
When asked about the controversial long count that Tyson claims cost him the fight, Holyfield was direct.
Do you feel it was a slow count?
No, it didn't seem slow to me.
The upset meant Holyfield would face Douglas instead of Tyson for his first heavyweight title shot. His reaction revealed his champion's mentality.
And I said, my job is not to come here to fight Tyson. My job was to fight the winner. I said, that's it. I said, people like, but what do you think about? I said, it ain't nothing to think about. I said, I still fighting for the championship. I said, if I won it for Mike, it was still gonna be the same to me. If I won it for Buster Douglas, it's still gonna be the same. I said, I want to be the champion. I said, you know how long I've been waiting for this? I said, ever since I was 8 years old. I said, I was told that I could be the heavyweight champion of the world. I said, now, I'm glad for it to come.
On October 25th, 1990 in Las Vegas, Holyfield delivered a devastating third-round knockout of Douglas, becoming the undisputed heavyweight champion at age 28. His reign showcased technical brilliance, a unanimous decision over 42-year-old George Foreman in 1991 in the Battle of the Ages, followed by defenses against Burt Cooper, a near-disastrous war saved only by Holyfield's resilience, and Larry Holmes. The Riddick Bowe trilogy from 1992 to 1995 stands as one of the greatest heavyweight series ever contested. The first fight on November 13, 1992, saw Bo dethrone Holyfield via unanimous decision in a brutal 12-round war, often ranked among the top 10 heavyweight bouts of all time. Round 10 became legendary. Holyfield rocked Bo repeatedly, only for Bo to roar back and nearly stop him, leaving both men exhausted. The Fan Man paraglider interruption marred their 1993 rematch, but Holyfield edged a majority decision to reclaim the WBA and IBF titles in another grueling affair. The rubber match in 1995 ended dramatically when Bo knocked Holyfield out in the 8th round, the only time Holyfield was ever stopped by punches, after Holyfield had dominated the early rounds. Then came the Mike Tyson rivalry, which would become the most infamous in boxing history. After Tyson's release from prison in 1995, Holyfield, coming off his 3rd heavyweight title win, was seen as the perfect opponent to test the former champion's comeback. On November 9, 1996, Holyfield authored one of the greatest upsets in sports, stopping Tyson in the 11th round via TKO. Tyson appeared bewildered by Holyfield's pressure, head movement, and clinch work. The rematch on June 28, 1997, the Bite Fight, descended into chaos that transcended boxing and entered global consciousness. Frustrated and bleeding from headbutts he believed were intentional, Tyson bit Holyfield's right ear in the 3rd round, removing a 1-inch piece of cartilage that was later found on the canvas. After a deduction and resumption, Tyson bit the left ear as well. Referee Mills Lane disqualified Tyson, awarding Holyfield the win and earning him approximately $34 million, his largest career payday. The Lennox-Lewis rivalry in 1989 produced 2 highly controversial encounters. Their first meeting on March 13, 1999, for the undisputed heavyweight title, ended in a widely criticized draw. Most observers and media scored it decisively for Lewis. The rematch on November 13, 1999, saw Lewis dominate more clearly, winning a unanimous decision to become undisputed champion. Yet, Holyfield was not finished. In 2000, a decision victory over John Ruiz for the vacant WBA strap made him a 4-time heavyweight champion, a record that still stands. His career ultimately included victories over 10 current, former, or future world champions in the heavyweight division alone. Tyson twice, Foreman, Holmes, Bo, Moorer, and Ruiz 3 times. Ring Magazine ranked him number 9 on their 2023 list of the 100 greatest punchers of all time. In 2017, he was inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. His ability to repeatedly climb back to championship level after setbacks, health issues, and advancing age cemented his status as one of the greatest heavyweights in boxing history. But as his earnings peaked, his financial troubles were accelerating behind the scenes. The same generous spirit that made him beloved, the willingness to trust family and friends with his fortune, was quietly destroying everything he had built. The body breaks down. The physical toll of Evander Holyfield's 57-fight professional career began to manifest in ways that would haunt him long after the final bell. The brutal wars against Riddick Bowe, Mike Tyson, George Foreman, and Lennox Lewis exposed him to repeated head trauma and extreme physical stress, leading to both acute episodes and chronic issues that have persisted into his 60s. The most dramatic health crisis came in April 1994, following his majority decision loss to Michael Moorer. Holyfield appeared unusually fatigued during the fight, struggling with chest pain and exhaustion that seemed to go beyond normal ring wear. Hospitalized initially for dehydration, a shoulder injury, and a cut eye, further tests revealed something far more serious: a non-compliant left ventricle, often described as a stiff heart. This congenital condition prevented his heart from expanding properly to pump sufficient oxygenated blood during extreme exertion, effectively causing virtual heart failure under the ring's demands. His physician, Dr. Ronald Stevens, called it an absolute miracle that Holyfield completed the 12 rounds, as the heart couldn't handle fluid replacement for the dehydration he was experiencing. Holyfield announced his retirement just days later, at age 31, believing his career was over. However, Holyfield attributed his recovery to divine intervention. In June 1994, he attended a service by televangelist Benny Hinn, claiming he felt a warm feeling that healed him. Subsequent tests cleared him for competition, though initial attempts to regain licensing faced scrutiny. A New York cardiologist initially denied clearance. He later suggested the original diagnosis was exacerbated by excessive morphine administered post-fight, downplaying it as not a true heart attack. Holyfield returned in 1995, resuming his championship pursuits without further reported cardiac incidents during his active years. Beyond the heart episode, the cumulative toll of absorbing punches from the heavyweight division's hardest hitters has raised widespread concerns about neurological damage. The specter of chronic traumatic encephalopathy, CTE, looms over Holyfield's later years. The progressive degenerative disease linked to repetitive brain trauma is common in boxers but cannot be definitively diagnosed in living persons. It requires post-mortem brain examination. Yet Holyfield exhibits what observers and medical professionals recognize as classic symptoms: noticeably slurred and halting speech, slower reflexes, and unsteady movements. These signs emerged as early as the 2000s, with his Georgia accent evolving into a more pronounced slur over time. By his late 50s, interviews showed effortful, sometimes incoherent speech, prompting online forums and media outlets to compare him to punch-drunk fighters of previous generations. The 2021 exhibition against Vitor Belfort intensified these worries. Pre-fight interviews showed troubling speech impairment, and the fight itself, stopped in just 1 minute and 49 seconds of the first round after Holyfield appeared slow, unsteady, and unable to mount any offense, seemed to confirm fears about his neurological state. The circumstances surrounding that fight represent one of the most criticized chapters in Holyfield's post-retirement life, often viewed as a clear case of an aging legend being exploited for financial gain amid his ongoing money troubles. After officially retiring in 2014 following his last professional fight in 2011, a 10th-round TKO win over Brian Nielsen in Denmark, Holyfield stayed away from competitive boxing for a decade. However, the surge in celebrity and legend exhibitions, sparked by Mike Tyson's 2020 return against Roy Jones Jr., drew him back, largely driven by lingering financial pressures from Bankruptcy. Initial comeback plans in 2021 centered on exhibitions promoted by Triller Fight Club. Holyfield signed a deal hoping for a lucrative third fight with Tyson, but when that fell through, alternate arrangements were made. The situation escalated dramatically in early September 2021 when Oscar De La Hoya, scheduled to face Belfort in a Triller main event, contracted COVID-19 and was hospitalized. On just 8 days' notice, Triller substituted the 58-year-old Holyfield against the 44-year-old Belfort. The bout was originally set for California, but the California State Athletic Commission refused to approve Holyfield's participation, even as an exhibition, citing safety concerns over his age and long layoff. The event was hastily relocated to Florida, which sanctioned it as a fully regulated professional contest under unified boxing rules. The fight itself, on September 11, 2021, at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Hollywood, Florida, was a mismatch from the opening bell. Holyfield landed just one punch. Belfort, aggressive from the start, dropped him with combinations and an uppercut, then swarmed until referee Sam Burgos waved it off as a TKO. Pre-fight training footage had already raised alarms. Holyfield looked frail on the pads, with diminished speed and power that bore no resemblance to the warrior who had dominated the heavyweight division. The event drew widespread condemnation from boxing media, fans, and analysts as exploitative and dangerous. Descriptions ranged from disgraceful and shameful to outright calls for bans on such mismatches involving elderly fighters. Critics argued Triller prioritized profit over safety, capitalizing on Holyfield's name value and financial vulnerability, while pairing him against a younger, recently active MMA striker with knockout power. Holyfield himself seemed to process the loss through the lens of faith and acceptance, echoing the values his mother had instilled decades earlier. No further competitive or exhibition fights materialized after the Belfort loss. Rumors of rematches or other bouts surfaced occasionally, but by 2023, he declared himself done regarding a Tyson Trilogy exhibition, saying it was too late. In 2024, there were brief mentions of interest in facing influencers like KSI, but promoters declined, citing age mismatches and health risks. The Belfort debacle remains a poignant symbol of boxing's tendency to exploit aging icons. It paralleled concerns over Tyson's 2024 fight with Jake Paul and underscored the sport's lack of protections for retired legends seeking paydays to address financial difficulties. Holyfield absorbed tremendous punishment throughout his career. The epic Bo trilogy alone featured relentless exchanges that left both men diminished. Fights like the 1991 war with Burt Cooper nearly overwhelmed him physically, even in his prime. Discussions in boxing communities often place him alongside figures like Muhammad Ali or James Toney for visible speech impairment resulting from accumulated trauma. In a tragic echo of his own health struggles, Holyfield's son Evan, who briefly pursued professional boxing, experienced a serious congenital coronary artery anomaly in late 2024 to early 2025, requiring open-heart surgery. The life-threatening condition resonated deeply with Evander's own 1994 scare, prompting media reflections on genetic factors, the physical demands of boxing across generations, and the emotional toll on the Holyfield family. Evan has since recovered and stepped away from the ring. As of late 2025, at age 63, Holyfield maintains impressive physical shape through continued training, often sharing workout videos on social media. But the speech and mobility concerns linger in public appearances. His visible effects underscore boxing's long-term risks, a tragic irony for a warrior renowned for his indestructibility in the ring. Legacy and redemption. The final chapter of Evander Holyfield's story is still being written, but the themes have crystallized into something both cautionary and redemptive. His journey from the Bowen Homes housing projects to heavyweight championship glory to financial ruin and back to stability offers lessons that extend far beyond boxing. As of late 2025, Holyfield's net worth is estimated between $1 million and $2 million. A dramatic fall from the $250 million he earned during his career, but representing a meaningful rebound from the rock bottom of bankruptcy. He lives in a comfortable but unextravagant home in the Atlanta area, drives modest vehicles, and emphasizes family time over the ostentation that once defined his lifestyle. The 109-room mansion is a distant memory, replaced by something more sustainable. His recovery has centered on leveraging his enduring name recognition through diverse revenue streams. Memorabilia sales continued beyond the 2012 auction. Additional pieces including signed trunks, robes, photographs, and furniture from his former mansion have appeared at smaller auctions and private sales over the subsequent decade. These efforts, combined with structured repayment plans from bankruptcy proceedings, allowed him to emerge from formal bankruptcy protection and avoid further foreclosures. Endorsements and appearances became a primary income stream. Holyfield has promoted products aligned with his Real Deal brand and health-conscious image, including fitness equipment, nutritional supplements, and grilling accessories distinct from his earlier failed grill line. He partnered with brands like Everlast for apparel and appeared in commercials. More lucratively, he capitalized on the nostalgia boom in boxing during the 2010s and 2020s, participating in autograph signings, convention appearances like the National Sports Collectors Convention, and paid meet and greets where fans pay premium prices for photos and signed items. Motivational speaking forms another pillar of his post-boxing career. Drawing on his rags-to-riches story, multiple comebacks, and faith journey, Holyfield commands fees for corporate events, church functions, youth programs, and athlete mentoring sessions. He frequently speaks on perseverance, financial literacy for athletes, drawing ironically from his own mistakes, and overcoming adversity. The topics resonate given his well-publicized struggles, and audiences respond to the authenticity of someone who lost everything and found his way back. His relationship with Don King, who controlled his career from 1996 through the late 2000s, became complicated. Holyfield had to sign with King to get the Tyson fights, a requirement that shaped his earning potential for over a decade.
Don King, see, for me to fight Mike Tyson,
Oh, you had to sign with Don King.
I had to sign with Don King.
Ruthless. Absolutely ruthless.
When asked whether King did him dirty, Holyfield was measured.
Do you think that Don King did you dirty at all?
Well, I think in the fight with that fight with that guy, and but after that, he didn't do anything no more than,
The contentious relationship with King paralleled Tyson's own troubled dealings with the promoter, though Holyfield never reached the violent breaking point that Tyson described. Public perception of Holyfield in 2025 remains largely positive and respectful. Younger fans discovering classic fights via YouTube and streaming platforms hail him as an underrated great, praising his warrior spirit against Bo, Tyson, and Lewis, while older generations view him as the last true throwback heavyweight champion. Social media discussions frequently contrast his clean image and humility with more controversial figures in the sport. His reconciliation with Mike Tyson has humanized both men. Joint interviews and podcast appearances have shown two former rivals who share understanding of what they endured and lost. The forgiveness Holyfield extended after the ear-biting incident, rooted in the Christian values his mother instilled, eventually blossomed into genuine friendship.
The Bible tell you about they gonna get theirs. But the whole thing is, I just want to be right in God's eyes.
That faith remains central to Holyfield's identity and public persona. He has preached at churches, supported faith-based youth programs, and the Warren Memorial Boys Club, where Carter Morgan first taught him to box, has been renamed the Warren Holyfield Boys and Girls Club in his honor. He emphasizes its Christian roots while mentoring the next generation of young people from circumstances similar to his own. His International Boxing Hall of Fame induction in 2017 is universally celebrated, with no serious debates remaining about his credentials. The conversation has shifted to broader recognition, his placement on all-time lists, honorary roles at major events, and the enduring influence of his fighting style on subsequent generations of heavyweights. The 3 divorces and 11 children from 6 different women created financial obligations that contributed to his downfall, but they also gave him a legacy beyond the ring. His children have largely avoided major scandals, and Holyfield speaks warmly of them in interviews, often sharing family moments on social media and emphasizing that legacy matters more than material wealth.
I would be writing to God out there if I have it, and then if that happened, but it's not like it ever made me broke. 'Cause I still get these great opportunities. I just get these great opportunities.
The opportunities continue to come because Holyfield's story resonates in ways that transcend boxing. In a cultural moment increasingly aware of CTE, athlete mental health, and post-career struggles, his journey, from poverty to glory to hardship to quiet resilience, offers a nuanced, multifaceted lesson. He is not just a champion who fell, he is a survivor whose story warns and inspires in equal measure. Holyfield frequently shares that the bankruptcy humbled him and strengthened his faith, teaching him the difference between wealth and value. The $230 million fortune is gone. The mansion belongs to someone else. The championship belts were sold to pay debts, but the man who was told at 8 years old that he could be like Muhammad Ali, who refused to cry at the Olympics despite being robbed of gold, who forgave the sister who stole from him and the opponent who bit off his ear, that man endures.
And so it shows me that, more that I believe and more that I continue to do the right thing, then I get it back.
His recovery, while not restoring him to millionaire athlete status, has allowed financial independence, continued support for his children, and a platform to warn others about the pitfalls that consumed his fortune. The tragic fate of Evander Holyfield is not a story that ends in tragedy. It is a story of a man who lost everything except the things that matter most, and found that was enough. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.